in the Kentucky Derby.
Now they move around the turns. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for green.
That's what it is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral Sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, he's pulling away. He's got another gear.
Yeah, the Swiss they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command.
Lionheart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle Slow of 1976.
And a good Monday morning from Louisville, Kentucky. You can see the sun starting to peek up over the east end. We are beneath the Twin Spires. The lights are on. Fast track out there today, but on the cooler side this morning. Things are warming up though. Probably the coolest day we're going to have this week. Everything warms up from here on out as we continue that march toward the 152nd running of the Kentucky Oaks and, of course, the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at the headlines. Speaking of Oaks, Bella Ballerina has returned to Churchill Downs. She's ran here before. She's back, and she's going to contest next week's Kentucky Oaks. Figures to take some action on the tote board in what is a very competitive race. The next day, the Derby figures to have a big field, but that field continues to be in flux as we now have learned that Nearly and Bravaro have been taken out of Derby consideration. We'll see how the rest of that shakes out as we march our way toward that first Saturday in May. Speaking of first Saturday in May, last year Sovereignty was the winner. He had a nifty little return race down at Oaklawn Park. We'll talk a little bit about that. Pretty stellar effort from all three horses in that spot. He's coming back to Churchill Downs for a little bit as he continues to prepare for a potential start in the Stephen Foster, which is a big deal for us later on in the meet. And speaking of the meet, opening weekend does draw later today, and it's opening day this year, not opening night, as we are racing on Saturday afternoon as we wheel back for a Sunday racing as well for the, I don't think it's the first time, but one of the few times we've ever done. First time for us anyway, Sunday of Derby week. Travis Stone alongside of Tony Kalo. Tony, good morning. Sovereignty, real quick, how great was that race?
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
I gained a lot more. I always had respect for him, but him losing in that fashion and then the gallop out, he might not lose the rest of the year, Travis.
Yeah, he was stout. And
I'll be betting him in the Foster.
You'll get a good price, too. Probably, what, 3 to 5?
I'm
you always like
hoping for a
good
little
chalk.
more.
Yeah, you like some chalk. So Foster later on this year, of course, we're tracking our way to the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. For more on all of this, not to be confused with Benson Boone, it's Caitlin Benson on the backside. Good morning, Caitlin.
Good morning, Travis. Glad to have you on our show. Going to be on here the next few days as well. Always great to work with you. And, of course, Tony also, but you mentioned Sovereignty. He's going to be coming back here to Louisville. Next planned start is the Grade 1 Stephen Foster at the end of the meet. He's going to be permitted to train on track with the Derby and Oaks horses, so he'll be out from 7:15 to 7:30 in the coming days as well as next week. So fans, when they come out for the Morning Works show, they're going to be able to see him on track. Mystic Dan and Torpedo Anna did something similar last year. And you guys already mentioned those couple of defections from the AE list. Dave Grinning reported those, both Bravaro and Nearly coming out. Nearly's going to get some time off on the farm. Bravaro's pointing to another race. That moves a few other horses into the AE picture. Great White is one of those now in 24th. I was able to catch up with trainer John Ennis yesterday, and if he draws into the field, the plan absolutely is to run Great White in that race. If not, he's going to head to the Pat Day Mile. So undercard races are just as fluid as the Derby and the Oaks, but a very exciting picture coming up next weekend. Let's head on over to Ren Carruthers. And Ren, I'm excited to see where you are, and it looks like you're outside the barn of Bill Mott. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Caitlin. Thank you so much. And yes, I am outside the barn of Bill Mott. And what a cool... to be there when Sovereignty won the Kentucky Derby. I remember when Bill and his whole entourage came through after the horse had won the race, and he was so ecstatic. Of course, he won the Kentucky Derby in 2019 with Country House, but, you know, that was getting put up via DQ. To have your horse cross the wire first in such dominant fashion, he was just overcome with emotion. A Hall of Fame trainer getting that Kentucky Derby win, and he is back this year with Chief Wallaby, who's going to be heading trackside here at 7:15 to put into work. Junior Alvarado is here to get aboard and pilot him for this work ahead of the Kentucky Derby. And I'll be coming to you later with a pedigree profile talking about whether or not it looks like a 1.25 mile pedigree. But for now, I'm going to throw it back to the guys up nice and toasty like Joe and Tony were yesterday. It's now Travis and Tony.
I might need a hat like that. Tony's got the fan rolling up here. It's a little chilly up here in the studio in the Aristides Loft. Thank you, Ren. More later from her.
I tried to have it more in my direction. Sorry, it's
We're good.
Okay.
We're handling it just well. Let's take a look at the leaderboard for this year's Kentucky Derby. We've been talking a lot about the fluidness of the AE list, but so far, knock on wood, these first couple, they've remained steady.
Yeah, no, we're very fortunate, and as you mentioned, knock on wood, this is what we want. We want all of the top leaders to stay in the body of the race, and how about Brad Cox with 3 of the top 5 in the standings?
Brad was at Keeneland yesterday. We made the trek over, probably the last chance for us to go take in some live race when we're not having to work, and seems pretty confident with his runners, as he should be. We'll talk a little bit more about Pavlovi a little bit later on. You can also see some other interesting, we haven't heard one way or the other on Stark Contrast yet. Got some Japanese horses that get a look as well.
Golden Tempo is very intriguing on this leaderboard here. He's going to be 25-30 to 1, I think, and I think he's got a puncher's chance.
His work at Keeneland the other day was nice.
Very
I
good.
thought that was good. And we mentioned the AEs. Chip Honcho would be a somewhat and fairly meaningful entrant. He has speed.
Yeah, and look at Litmus Test and Great White if they were happen to get in the race as well. They're a couple of forward types as well.
Great White is a giant racehorse.
Yeah, massive.
But
What's he
also
like?
has potential speed.
17 two hands, so
Yeah.
they're 1,400 pounds.
Yeah, it's a big boy. So yeah, later on today we've got Chief Wallaby, who, I don't want to say he's underrated because I think he gained a lot of respect over the winter at Florida. But this is a horse that's lightly raced. The figures are going in the right direction. You trust the connections to get horses ready for the Kentucky Derby. We're going to see him work out here a little bit later on this morning. Junior's in town to do so. He got a look at Churchill Downs yesterday, walked around the racetrack, went into our new paddock, checked out the scenery there. I think he's a major player.
I agree, and he handled himself beautifully yesterday. Very, very composed, relatively inexperienced with only 3 races. People are holding the defeat in the Florida Derby against him. He's only a half a length off. It was only his second time around 2 turns. You're going to touch upon the trouble that he had. Not the trouble, but just maybe the hesitation. This is a horse that's kind of flying a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, and he looked good schooling yesterday as well. Yeah, the Florida Derby I thought there was a couple of opportunities for him to kind of tap on the gas a little bit and get into the clear as they were heading down the backstretch. And they elected to kind of just stay in that tucked in spot while the rest of the race developed. And while you would say to yourself, well, if he was truly a Kentucky Derby winning type horse, he would have won that race. You got to remember, he was beaten less than half a length, maybe 3/4 of a length or so, and he was still coming on at the end. So it's not like this was a poor effort whatsoever.
As a handicapper, I guess we're holding it against him that he didn't punch on through. Why don't you guide us through this?
Yeah, so going down the backstretch, he had an opportunity to sort of get out, and then it put him in this boxed-in scenario around the far turn. In the meantime, Commandment's already underway. The Puma's got the jump on him. Right here is where you would say to yourself, okay, if he was truly going to be a Kentucky Derby winner, this is where he wins. But this is still a lightly raced horse. He's kind of in between. You can see him kind of getting inward a little bit there. And even still, he's coming on late at the end. This horse is not an impossibility whatsoever. He's probably going to be a little bit drifting in terms of price because some of the others are taking some action. There's a lot of steam on the Puma, if you will. And Belmont's won the Derby before.
He's won it on a couple of occasions. Most recently, last year, the style that you want to, where you win it going away, not getting put up via the DQ.
Yeah, as they say in the business, kissed up. Country House was kissed up back in that rainy Derby. The other thing with Chief Wallaby is if you watch some of his earlier races, the horse has some legitimate tactical speed. He's not a one and out closer, as they say, and I'd like to see them use some more of that speed because we'll talk a lot about this week and into next. There's not a lot of one-way speed in this year's Kentucky Derby, and Chief Wallaby can get a forward spot. He can get a forward spot, but the question is whether or not he can get 10 furlongs. It's a question they all have to answer.
They do.
And Ren Carruthers has done some deep dive work into the pedigree of Chief Wallaby. And Ren, tell us, is 10 furlongs in his wheelhouse?
Well, any horse can get 10 furlongs. The question is, how fast can they go doing it? Well, Chief Wallaby, what you're talking about, he does have a really nice balance of speed and stamina in the pedigree. He's a son of Constitution. Constitution's a 2-time winner at 9 furlongs. He won the Florida Derby as well as the Dawn. Now, Constitution, he went on to sire a horse named Tiz the Law, who you may remember. We had that weird 2020 year where all of our races kind of got out of order and were run at different distances also. He won the Belmont at Belmont Park going 1 1/8. He won the Travers, the Midsummer Derby at the 1 1/4, and he was second to Authentic in the Kentucky Derby, which was run in September that year. But then on the bottom side, this boy, he is by a mare by Medaglia d'Oro, who imparts a lot of class as well. Medaglia d'Oro was such a class act. He also won the Midsummer Derby, the Travers Stakes. He was second in the Belmont, as well as some other really prestigious races, like 2 editions of the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Pacific World Cup, and or the Pacific Classic rather, and the Dubai World Cup. And when you also then look to the grandmother here, that is Glory Zapper. She had speed. She won the Grade 3 LA Woman and is a daughter of Ghost Zapper. Ghost Zapper still holds the record for the fastest Breeders' Cup Classic. And remember, everybody, that's a 1 1/4 as well. And he did that in 1:59. And if we want to get very specific, 2 100ths. So yes, I do think this is a horse who can obviously get 10 furlongs. And I do love the balance of speed and stamina. So, and coming up into his 4th race, we'll see just how much he can improve, guys.
Thank you, Ren. Interesting stuff. What do you think price-wise on Chief Wallaby? It's because there's a lot of good horses in this race. They all can't be single digits.
True.
I feel like he's drifted into double-digit territory.
I agree. 12, 15 to 1. 15 to 1 would be very generous. I'd take 12 to 1 as well.
I feel like he probably dances between that 10, 11, or 12 to 1 type range for Chief Wallaby. More on him a little bit later on. Also working this week, of course, they're all working, getting ready for the Kentucky Derby, but just recently was Pavlovian, who, we talked about the speed. This horse has some speed. Obviously, Doug O'Neill has won the Derby before. Pavlovian in gritty efforts, both down in Sunland and at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, he ran his heart out in both of those efforts. A very narrow victory in the Sunland Derby, and then he was put into play very early with his inside post in the Louisiana Derby. You know, previous races, he was a little bit further off the pace, somewhat like this work. I mean, this work initially started out 5 lengths behind his workmate, Robusta, who ran very well in the San Felipe.
At nearly 70 to 1, right?
Yeah. Potente had to really run his heart out to run him down, and I like this move from Pavlovian, and I'd like to see him try to relax a little bit early. Obviously, post position will indicate what the style could be.
He obviously has some speed, but he's not exactly one-way speed. And the one thing, as I watched his replays, and I made a note of, when they stretched him out, he started to run a little bit better, so that's noteworthy for one. But he doesn't exactly fire out of the gates, and I think that could be an issue if you're looking for him to be on the lead. So I would expect more of a stalking-type trip would be the target for Pavlovian. I almost feel like he was on the lead and losing in a Derby, sort of by default in a way.
Because of his inside positioning?
Yeah, and there wasn't a ton of other early gas in there. It was a dogfight, though, and he ran right down to the wire with Emerging Market, who we'll talk more about as well in Emerging Market's second career start. But not for nothing, this was a mile 3/16, so just a half a furlong shorter than the Kentucky Derby. And if you look through his PPs, he does know how to win dogfights. So it's not for nothing. He does have some grit, if you will.
You know, I think sometimes as a handicapper, we don't evaluate that or give it as much credence as we should. You know, you can be in dogfights and continuously come up on the short end. It's nice when you have a horse that has some fight and they want to put that nose down.
Yeah, it was a big effort from Emerging Market. And the horse you mentioned, Golden Tempo, coming up the inside to grab third. Doug O'Neill, of course, won his first Kentucky Derby back in 2012 without have another in, you want to talk about a fast pace. And then, of course, Nyquist came right back in 2016 off his juvenile win at Keeneland, right down the road the next year to win the Kentucky Derby. Doug O'Neill, he's a good Derby trainer.
He's a very good trainer. That's a great statistic, especially for such a prestigious race. Doug's always had good percentages, and as you mentioned, what a live pace it was in 2012. You talked about it offset with Bodemeister.
Bodemeister. Did Bodemeister outrun Triniberg to the lead that year? Who then came back to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint? That's how fast that pace was. Yeah.
Back in the old days when the sprinters would draw in.
Yeah. We talked about AE lists and things moving around, and Intrepido is one of those who's keeping an eye on that also eligible list. He was disappointing in the Santa Anita Derby, but he was better as a 2-year-old. the problem for him is the figures and the form. It just feels like he hasn't really progressed to 3.
I expected a lot more out of him in the Santa Anita Derby, and he was soundly defeated, 10 lengths behind the eventual winner. So happy. He's really going to have to step it up. I don't mind a horse losing in the prep before the Derby. You know, Sovereignty last year. I want to see a horse kind of with energy at the line. I didn't see that from him in the recent start.
Lewis was not awful behind
Right.
Plutarch. He's kind of involved from start to the finish, but just the numbers have not really progressed. And this is his workout just yesterday out on the West Coast in Trepido. I mean, at least he goes and picks up his workmates here.
Yeah,
so
that's a good move.
Yeah, he's moving forward at least. He will certainly be
Another one that wants pace, and that's the real question. Maybe if Chip Honcho draws in, we get Great White, then the pace starts to heat up a little bit. But a little concerning on a pace standpoint.
Yeah, it's going to work against him. It's going to be a big price. Speaking of prices, there figures to be a lot of really juicy prices in that Kentucky. It's a super competitive race this year, and we will have more on that when we come back after this.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With Twin Spires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. And now you can race to victory with Twin Spires tournaments.
Elegance is an attitude.
And good morning and welcome back to Churchill Downs. Don't forget to bet with twinspires.com. You sometimes can see Tony's face on there giving you some expert picks, analysis, and some selections. And now you can see Tony live in studio here at the Aristides Loft. Travis Stone alongside of Tony Kalo. Morning rolls on, Derby week, Derby Oaks week rolls on. We're in it.
Well, yeah, we are. It's the fourth day of the show. Your first day, but it's not your first rodeo.
There you go. The Derby, of course, is the headliner, and I'm not being a company guy when I say this. The Kentucky Oaks is one heck of a race.
Yeah, top to bottom this year's Kentucky Oaks. We were just talking about it offset. The price of the favorite. Who will be the favorite? A couple of questions that are tough to answer.
I mean, and Nick Tamro, who makes the line now here at Churchill Downs, I have not asked him who he's making for the Oaks favorite. I would have to say one of those top two are likely it. Percy's Bar just seems to be a very popular filly.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very impressive Ashland, that's for sure. I thought she had a little bit better scenario set up than Zany. And I talk about horses coming off the feets that impressed me. Zany impressed me, but Percy's Bar impressed me with this work.
We saw Percy's Bar both at Keeneland last April, and then she came here to Churchill and ran in June. She was most impressive in both of those two races. And while she ran second, beaten sixth in the Spinaway, I thought it was a sneaky good second to Tommy Joe, who was the real thing at that time.
Right.
Where's her bad race? Even the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, where she was third, she was bugged down inside for a few strides there and still came on. And how about the race from October to April? I mean, that's a tough ask. And she ran huge in her return.
It's a very tough ask, and she was as good in that race. It's her best speed figure to date. Will she regress from that? This workout indicates no, that I don't think you have to worry about the regression. The thing I like about her is she has been as impressive around two turns as she was in one turn. You don't usually see that a lot.
Yeah, and she sort of can go wherever you need her to go.
Yeah.
She's had some speed. She's come from off the pace. I thought she had a good trip in the Ashland. She was able to stick to the inside, right, while her rival Zany was kind of forced with a more wide and outside type trip. But take nothing away from her, because you offset that with the fact that it was her first race since the Breeders' Cup. So off that 5 or 6 month layoff, whatever it is, I mean, it's just a really stout return. I think she's going to end up taking a lot of action. I think Meaning is the other one that's probably going to take some action with her. Percy's Bar.
She's one of three that has won over the Churchill Downs surface as well. That has to come into play.
That's not for nothing.
Yeah.
Not for nothing. She beat Zany who I think is sort of a wise guy horse for a lot of those looking to tout this Kentucky Oaks, because Zany lost the most recent race, but she was kind of coming on late. And if you watch her replays, and here she is working with She Be Smooth, if you watch her replays, she looks in a way like a filly that's still trying to figure some stuff out. Some wanders a little bit, kind of ducks in a touch. Maybe some more experience will help her too.
And she'll gain that experience now with 2 races as a 3-year-old. And as you mentioned, she had things kind of against her in the Ashland, and she was still coming on. It wasn't like she spit the bit and backpedaled from the 8th pole home. She still had a lot of enthusiasm. She's got a tremendous body. Look how big she is in comparison to She Be Smooth. I'm moving her up my rankings each and every day.
She's probably going to be 3rd choice in here, although I do feel she's got a little bit of the sharp eye, if you will. A lot of the sharper horse players recognize that she's probably the one you want coming out of that Ashland, even though I wouldn't necessarily say you're against Percy's Bar.
Right.
She Be Smooth had that real big win in the Devona Dale back in February. It's a big pace setup that day, though, and she was unable to fire with a different scenario in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Zany, though, nice little workout there, finishing up well. We'll take a look at the Ashland.
She's built perfectly. I love the way she's proportioned from, front to back.
Yeah, you do know about proportions. Let's take a look at Percy's Bar coming up the inside, Zany outside. So right here, I mean, this race is over, right?
Right.
I mean, Percy's Bar's got the, and you can see Zany with a little bit of
Exactly.
the lug in, if you will. But watch her energy late. She is picking up some ground to Percy's Bar late in the going. This is the shorter stretch run at Keelan. You can see her getting closer there. She's going to get the longer 2-furlong stretch at Churchill. Plenty of time to get those wheels going.
Yeah, that final 16th is what has me inclined to want to go with Sadie. Watching it again, my first look at it was true.
Yeah. Talk about final 16ths. I think that, in my opinion, could be a concern for Bella Ballerina. She has run well, but I don't know if she's really screaming a horse that wants to go the true 2-turn distance.
This workout, I guess they're trying to get her to maybe get that 2-turn distance, get that extra 16th that you're talking about. She's in behind rivals here, and they're trying to teach her a little something. Here's one coming off a defeat for the first time in her career. 3 of her 4 races, she has been an authoritative favorite. You'll probably get the biggest price she's ever offered come post.
That's actually a good point, and you're finally going to get a price on her.
Yeah.
Because she's been bet pretty hard in all 4 starts. She had a 3.5 length lead in the Goldenrod, was getting late in that spot. Came back in the Rachel Alexandra. That was a dogfight. She won that, ran it well, but I don't like how she lost ground in the Fairgrounds Oaks. Now, granted, she lost ground to a very good filly, but her figure regressed as well. And so you're trying to say to yourself, like, what is this extra 16th of a mile really going to look like for her?
It could be a little trouble for her, as you mentioned, and then especially with the competitiveness of this field, she could get a little lost in the shuffle there.
Pretty City Dancer, her dam, dead heated in the spinaway, if I remember correctly. We had to split a pick 5 ticket, the boys and I.
You would remember that.
Yeah, we would. That was a rough one. Bella Ballerina. Here's her Fairgrounds Oaks, where she was involved in the pace throughout, and she's just going to lose some ground late. But she's losing ground late to a horse that's pulling away from her.
Yeah, Life of Joy was definitely going to be one of the players for Brad Cox. Brad won the race last year, obviously, with Godolphin and Good Cheer. Life of Joy was somewhat reminiscent of her. So Bella Ballerina, and it was her second start. Sometimes these young horses will regress a little bit in their second start as a 3-year-old. The question, like you're saying, is with the competition, others that maybe appear a little more enticing, where does she actually figure?
The other thing in that race is they're gapped out there, and that's usually the sign of a quality race. So we'll see if that pans out coming up next week. Speaking of horses, how about Wonder Dean, who's going to contest not the Oaks, obviously, but the Kentucky Derby from Japan by way of Dubai. Not without chance. This is live. He's in the chute now, going through his routines.
Yeah, we've grown accustomed to seeing these Japanese horses do these circles in the chute, figure eights, and seems to be, the way they like to train. It's kind of like, I remember once upon a time, I knew an old-time trainer, and he used to get the lunge line and do that with the horses. It's somewhat similar to that.
I felt like, from a handicapping perspective, last time was the time you wanted to have Wonder Dean. He did have a bit of a trip in Saudi. It was wide, both turns, the way that race shook out, and it felt like Wonder Dean, the time to have him was last time. I don't know. But I can't get a sense of, there's not a lot of chatter on him, so I don't think he's a horse that's going to take a lot of money.
I don't have a lot of how to gauge the Japanese races. I know this one was obviously at Maidan, but yeah, that's a good point. you'll get the chatter. The chatter was there with Forever Young.
Yeah.
It's not this year with Wonder Dean.
Yeah, Forever Young was a once-in-a-lifetime horse.
Exactly.
You know, so they knew that. Wonder Dean, we'll see. He doesn't have a ton of gate speed either, so that might work against him as well. Earlier this morning, so Brad Cox has a completely loaded hand for this year's Kentucky Derby, and his horses worked out a couple of days ago. They came back to the racetrack this morning, but they came out here early. I think even before you and I were awake. Here's Commandment, who we saw his replay earlier, Florida Derby, his return to the racetrack this morning.
Yeah, a couple of workout a couple of days ago, and then they probably just do some walking in the shed row the next 2 days. And this was his first day to stretch his legs. I believe he had a jog around the track from the outer rail, and here he is just with a nice little get those muscles flexing. And boy, he's got a lot of muscles.
Yeah, he's
a big boy.
Yeah, the scenario with Commandment is interesting because if you look on paper, he's probably supposed to be a shorter price than Renegade. But Renegade in all overseas markets and future wagers and all the chatter is a shorter price than he is, and it's just kind of curious how this is all shaking out. Is it because he's not flashy? He's not flashy. Some horse people that I respect have said he's starting to look like a horse that he knows what he's supposed to do and just does it.
Yeah, he did it in his workout. He's done it in his last 2 races. You know, Renegade with the authoritative victory, the turn of foot, the margin, over 4 lengths. This guy just relentless, knows where the wire is, putting his nose down in time.
Yeah, Commandment figures to be second choice, maybe third choice, depending on how some of the betting goes. Last year, Final Gambit made a wide sweeping move and snuck into the frame in full effort. Has a similar profile to him. You're a little bit familiar with this one.
Yeah, just a little bit. His last 3 races at Turfway Park. Unlike Final Gambit, this one has some good dirt blood, top and bottom. Liam's Map out of an awesome, again, mare, a sister, power squeeze. Yep. And last time in the Ruby, I think it was Trace Adkins who was talking about it, how he got into play early at the top of the lane. You look at the Leonidas, you look at the Battaglia Memorial, he's far back. He was right there at the quarter pole, and his recent workout the other day going 59 and change, he's all over the workmates. So those type of tactics bode well for him.
Nick Tamer, I mentioned it before, makes the morning line now at Churchill Downs, and he said if you compare Full Effort's PPs to Final Gambit, Full Effort is just looks way better than he does. So he was trying to figure out, does this horse take some action? And there's a lot of, I don't want to say people trying to be smart. They're trying to decipher whether or not this is going to be a dirt horse or not. I think this horse is going to take more attention than people think.
Yeah, no, he's coming into the race on a positive note. And I think I mentioned it yesterday. What happens if the skies open up and it rains? Maybe he's one that could benefit from it.
There you go. We mentioned Brad Cox loaded hand. Well, he's got another one he brought out this morning. This is Further Ado, who won by 20 lengths at Keeneland last year, came back to win by 11 in the Bluegrass. When you watch his replays, he does look like a horse that enjoys Keeneland. However, you have to think, and Brad said this on our interview here the other day, they brought him up to Saratoga, which means they liked him from the get-go. He ran fine. Those were sprint races. When he started to stretch out, things got really interesting. And as it turns out, the Tampa Bay Derby ended up being more of a key race than probably some of us thought initially. And obviously he was huge last time in the Bluegrass. If he translates that form over here back to Churchill, I mean, we all might be saying to ourselves, I can't believe we discounted this horse that's been winning these races like that.
I like the point you mentioned about how his races, as soon as he stretched out. Yeah. I talk about it a lot, that it takes a special horse to win young at Saratoga, so don't hold those defeats against him.
Yeah, Further Ado. He also has some tactical speed, which I think is going to come in handy here, and it does sound like Brad's been glowing about how he's been doing. If I had to read between the lines and there was a pecking order, I think this would be his number one.
I heard Brad mention that it's easy to get to the barn at 4:30 when you can walk into that shed row every day.
Well, if you like Further Ado, Full Effort, or any of them, you can bet them at twinspires.com. Don't forget about the $10 Kentucky Derby bet back at twinspires.com. Bet a horse to win during Kentucky Derby week, and if it runs second or third, Tony can relate to that. Get a bonus bet back up to $10 in all eligible races. You have to opt in April 25th through Derby Day, and you can do so at twinspires.com.
I like closers, Travis.
Yeah, you do. You're always coming up short. Kentucky Derby betting challenge. I don't know if you've done the handicapping scene, Tony, but handicapping tournaments are a lot of fun, and the handicapping tournament scene on twinspires.com has exploded recently, and of course, it's highlighted by the $300,000 Kentucky Derby betting challenge. To bring $5,000 to the table, you bet a $3,500 live bankroll, and you wager across the biggest races at Churchill Downs all the way up to the Kentucky Derby. You can qualify now at twinspires.com for that Kentucky Derby betting challenge, which is quickly becoming one of the, quote, majors, if you will, on that handicapping tournament circuit. Wonder Dean hanging out here at Churchill Downs as we await the return of the Kentucky Derby and Oaks trading session. It'll be up after this break. We'll see you shortly.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With Twin Spires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. And now you can race to victory with Twin Spires tournaments.
Elegance is an attitude.
And good morning and welcome back to Churchill Downs, harrowing the racetrack here, the famed oval beneath the Twin Spires, which will host the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby next week. As we continue on, you can see the cars starting to pile in each and every day. There'll be more and more people on that backstretch, and then a couple of days after the Derby, it gets quiet again. But Derby season is great here at Churchill Downs. That Longines commercial makes me think they should give us a couple of complimentary watches. We'd hold them up here like they do in the PGA Tour players.
Exactly.
They all have those watches.
You've got that kind of muscle. Get it done.
I have no muscle. We're here at Churchill Downs, Aristides Loft, front side, back side. Caitlin Benson is here, and we've got a special guest joining us for the morning training session, a time at the racetrack that is reserved for the Oaks and Derby horses. Nobody else is allowed out there, except for horses like Sovereignty, who we heard is going to be coming back to Churchill Downs. Let's head it back out to Caitlin.
Well, thank you, Travis. Please be joined here by Declan Cannon, very accomplished jockey in his own right, and a lot of the times an exercise rider to the stars. You're going to be on board a 6-speed in the mornings. What have you kind of gathered about that horse as far as his training patterns go?
Yeah, he's a very forward-going horse. He was in Newmarket before coming here. He gets in tomorrow. I believe Ryan Moore had a sit on him on the gallops over there, and he's coming in right off the plane, ready to go. So my job won't be just get him around here for a week and keep him happy.
Did you have a chance to talk to Ryan at all about him?
No, I spoke with Tig, who is first jockey to Bupa in Dubai. So he's a strong horse. He'll probably be a handful out here with everything going on, but we should be fine.
We're going to take a look at some other horses. We're going to evaluate some of the others that are going to be on the track. We'll probably talk about Wonder Dean, who's over in the chute, just a little bit. I trust a lot of your knowledge about the international horses. Chief Wallaby is going to come up and work here in just a moment. He's going to be adding the blinkers potentially in this race. Looks like they have the blinkers off for the work, as far as I can see. What can you make of these equipment changes between works, between races as a jockey, and translating to a big race like the Derby?
Well, you don't want to have the blinkers on every morning if you're training. I'm not sure if the decision is fully made, if the blinkers will go on yet or not, but it's just to keep him focused. I've seen him train out here. He's got a very easy-going, lovely mover. His race in Florida was excellent. I'd really pick him to run 1, 2, 3 in the Derby. I think this is a sneaky good horse.
We talked a little bit off camera. Bella Ballerina was a horse that you were on all winter. I heard some rumblings that Brendan talked about maybe taking the blinkers off of her in the races. She's worn them previously, put them on. He's taken them off in some of the workouts. Can you relay anything to that?
Yeah, from sitting on her, her last 2 works have been very good with Tyler. She doesn't need blinkers in the morning, but she ran in blinkers, so it was a hard decision to take the blinkers off. But Brendan knows what he's doing. If the blinkers are coming off, then it'll be the right thing to do.
Over to Wonder Dean over here in the chute. He's been schooling a little bit. He's not been in the gate, but I think maybe he'll go over to the gate at some point here this morning. He was the horse that ended up beating 6-Speed in the UA Derby most recently. What did you gather from that race as far as both these horses are concerned? Obviously, 6-Speed with a ton of speed early on in the races.
Yeah, Wonder Dean, it took him a long time to run down 6-Speed. This horse here, I've seen him warming up in the chute, and he's bucking the cooler air this morning, has him feeling good. Lovely horse to look at. He's got his ears up there. He's taking it all in and paying attention. But I think 6-Speed, he's naturally quick, and he probably will be the speed in the Derby. And for me, there's a lot of argy-bargies in the Derby, and if you can stay out of trouble and be forward and travelling, it's always a good thing in a race like the Derby. So these horses, they're not going to be giving up position or anything like that. So this horse here, he's going to be in a good stalk and spot, I think, right behind him. But yeah, I like the way this horse has been training too since he's been here.
That was one thing I wanted to ask you. Obviously, we don't have post positions drawn, but you really are an astute handicapper. I wanted to talk to you about potentially the pace in this race before we take a look back at Chief Wallaby, who's about to work.
Yeah, well, we're not going to see a slow run Derby by any means, but position is everything, and the draw is so important. There's a lot of deep closers in this year's Derby, so it's going to be a really good race. But you just kind of want to see where they're going to come from, because it can get messy, and you just need to get the right trip.
Let's go ahead and send it back over to Tony and Travis for the work about to happen here for Chief Wallaby. But there's a look at Chipancho in the meantime.
Chipancho, horse that figures has some speed. They talked about 6-Speed, Tony, a horse that is one-way speed, but he is not sprinter speed. He's got some talent, and don't be surprised if he leads them for a long time.
I'm looking at his bloodlines. He's got the sire, the current hottest sire, at least last year. Not this time. He has Medaglia d'Oro blood on the bottom, so it's all Kentucky blood. But he's been racing overseas, and like you mentioned, not a lot of pace on paper. 6-Speed, definitely the horse. Maybe has a puncher's chance. He'll take him as long as he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's not impossible. You're going to have to know him early, and probably have to know him a little bit late, too, because he's certainly going to have a lot to say. Unless a horse like Chipancho draws in, who could make things a little bit more difficult for him on the front end. Chipancho's a good horse in his own right. Probably deserves a bit of a pass for the most recent start. We were saying off air, Thunder Gulch, he was off in the Bluegrass, and he went off 25-1 in the Kentucky Derby and won, despite having a stellar earlier in the year campaign. So sometimes it's okay to throw in a clunker here or there. This is horse racing. Things happen.
Yeah, things do happen.
Chief Wallaby. So the word from Kevin Kirstein, who just shot me the text, gave me an update, is going to be working with Gilded Bandit, who was a maiden special weight winner at Keeneland. I looked that up while we're hearing from Declan. Chief Wallaby is going to go 5/8 of a mile, and Gilded Bandit is going to stop after a half mile. So
so don't get too excited that last furlong when he opens
so you might,
up.
if he wins by a furlong, this workout.
Holy Toledo! Did you see that final furlong?
The workout of the century.
Now that's good to know.
It's interesting. I actually would be curious what the reasoning or the tactics there. Like, what's the thought process? Is Gilded not needing to go far? Are they trying to give Chief some confidence? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this pans out. But Chief Wallaby, we showed his replay earlier. This horse has tactical speed. And there's a lot of. The Derby is never a slow pace, but it's not like there's 8 speed horses in here, and he figures to be forward if they want to use some of that early gas.
Yeah, look at his debut run. He is very close to a 22-4 and a 45-3, going 7/8 of a mile. And most recently, they went 48-4 and 113 for the splits, and he was about a length and a half off. Now with the blinkers being added, he does have that speed, as you mentioned. He's probably going to be 4th, 5th, right?
Yeah,
maybe?
figures to be in that first flight for sure.
Yeah.
Kevin just sent me another text update. He is going to gallop a mile before he works, and this is SOP, Standard Operating Procedure for the Mott Barn with Chief Wallaby. Junior Alvarado in the irons here. Junior with a great ride last year on Sovereignty, although I think maybe you and I could have even rode him. It was, that was a loaded racehorse around the far turn.
I went to the Derby Museum last week with my family that was in town, and I put on a heck of a ride with that simulator. Masterful ride along the inside.
Do you switch stick? Do you switch hands? Switch hands well? You know, change leads?
You only get 5 boost buttons, I guess, in that. And I finally, we got taught on the third run how you're really supposed to
You were a
ride
third
them.
off.
It
the
was pretty
layoff
cool.
guy.
It was
Yeah.
cool.
That's
Have you
cool.
done it?
I have. The museum is great. Anybody that comes into town, you have to check out the museum for the Kentucky Derby. Right here on the grounds of Churchill as Chief Wallaby heads into the stretch, kind of moving his head around a little bit there, but nice, composed, relaxed. I like this horse. I think he's, especially because I think some of the others are going to take a little bit more action on the tote board. I think his price is drifting a little bit, even into the 10 or 12 to 1 type range, despite the fact he was within a length of 2 horses that figure to be much shorter prices than him.
We're always preaching value in this game, and if you like Commandment and you like the Puma, it's hard not to like Chief Wallaby. I think when I saw you for the first time in a few months the other night, we were talking about it, and I said, all 3 horses out of the Florida Derby have to be respected. Renegade, and then I think you mentioned maybe another odd horse here and there, but those 4 definitely have to be under strong consideration.
Yeah, for sure. I find it interesting he galloped him a mile here. A lot of times you watch these workouts, they kind of walk the wrong way for a little bit. They just turn around and almost get right into it. This is, it's interesting. The puzzle that is training horses is always fascinating.
I like it because not what works for one horse doesn't always work for another. But like you said, most times the conventional way is to get to the outer rail, jog in the wrong direction, go to about the 7/8, even the wire, turn them back around, and then boom, they're into that workout.
Yep. Churchill Downs, a 1-mile racetrack from finish to finish. Chief Wallaby meeting back up with...
Be interesting to see if he's on the inside or outside. I would assume since he's going an extra furlong, he'll be on the outside. I'd like to hear what trainers have to say, why and when they choose those positions.
I've asked the question, and I guess Rosie's going to join us next week. She'll probably provide, Rosie Napravnik now, Rosie Sharp, can provide us with some more insight later this week, I'm told. More insight on that. But it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. If you're inside, it's a little bit more intense, and if you're outside, less so. So
that's what I've always thought. If you maybe want to be a little bit more forward in an affair, or you're a front-running type, you're put on the inside. I was talking with a friend about Renegade's work, and he said, hey, the Derby has so many horses. Maybe it's not such a bad idea once in a while to put him on the inside, even though he's kind of an outside closing type of horse.
Yep. Chief Wallaby. Once again, his workmate is Gilded Bandit. I'm sure is going to come into the frame here shortly. Gilded Bandit is going to work 4 furlongs. Chief Wallaby is slated to work 5. So like Tony said, if Chief Wallaby wins by more than a furlong, I say wins, it's not really a race, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If he breaks away by more than a furlong.
Now you have the explanation.
Yeah. You can actually see Junior a little bit reserved here. Gee, this horse is, he's feeling well, he's ready to go.
He really is. He's got his neck all bowed, and the blinkers on haven't made him too aggressive. He's rationing this energy beautifully. He has the workmate in sight and expecting a big, strong final stretch here.
Right there at the top of the stretch, quarter pole. So
he hasn't nudged it. He hasn't asked him yet. He's still under a good restraint.
And right about here is where Gilded Bandit's supposed to sort of back off, I believe, unless he started earlier and they're going to have them both finish at the same time. We'll see what the gallop out is here as they hit the wire. 2 furlong stretch at Churchill Downs. Long time to kind of get going as Chief Wallaby goes ahead and starts to assert himself now.
There he goes. He's asked for just a little bit right there, and he's going to lengthen that stride. And I think this is an awesome move so far. And here he is finishing full of run, lots of enthusiasm. And
ears back.
Just what you want for a horse heading in the right direction. Young horse with a lot of upside, and he did this beautifully.
Yeah. Hear the ears moving about. Horses are so fascinating. And as he heads back to the backstretch and rolls right past Caitlin and Declan. What do you guys see from back there?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pick Declan's brain here on this work before we saw him get into the work when he was galloping there that mile. You just talked about what a lovely mover this horse is. What did you think about the fluidity as he went from that gallop going into the work?
Everything was very smooth. It was a lovely work. I don't know what it was on the clock, but visually it was very impressive. He rated really nice. Junior had a long hold on him throughout the whole work, and then, from a lot of good energy through the line, and the gallop out was really impressive. He opened up 10 or 12 lengths there, and just kept going away further the better he got. Junior's giving him a pat on the neck there. He looks very happy with him, and nice work with the blinkers on.
They're going to go ahead and roll the work back here in just a moment. So I'll have you maybe talk me through it, kind of what Junior's doing with his hands, when he kind of really flips his hands there to ask him. It's going to be a little while now, but I'm going to go ahead and maybe have you talk me through it just a little bit as he gets ready to get started here and come up to Gilded Bandit in a moment.
Yeah, so Junior doesn't want him to jump right into the bridle and get racing with the blinkers on. He wants him to settle him behind, take a lead, and then, you know, it was effortless when he asked him to move up to his workmate. You know, having a target is always good because you don't want the horse to do too much too early in the work. It was excellent work.
So he's coming up to him alongside here. I believe the plan, as Travis and Tony were saying, was for Gilded Bandit to kind of back off around the 4 furlong pole. So once they get into the stretch, Chief Wallaby kind of sidles up alongside. It looked like about the 16th pole. That's kind of when Junior just kind of shifted his hands slightly and was able to start asking Chief Wallaby. It's going to come up here in just a little bit, but still pretty much under a hammerlock here.
Yeah, and look at his stride pattern. He looks like he's not even going that quick, but he just eats up the ground here late, and through the line, it's so strong. A lot of good energy. Loved what I seen here.
What'd you make of the gallop out?
Very impressive, strong. He asked him to gallop out, but he just kept lengthening away from his workmate. And his ears are like flicking back and forth, so he's not exerted himself at all.
Does he still stay in your top 3 off of this, or move up even further?
Absolutely. He's just such a beautiful mover, and I think with the blinkers on, he'll be in a great position with Junior. Junior knows how to win a Derby, so yeah.
No wasted movement on Chief Wallaby as he completes his gallop out here. Tony and Travis will go ahead and send it back up to you guys for further thoughts.
Thank you both. So time-wise, 48.6 for the half on Gilded Bandit and 1 minute flat for Chief Wallaby. No word on some gallop out action there, but I mean, I would say that rave reviews for Chief Wallaby.
Yeah, that's definitely going to move him up the rankings, and perhaps our aspirations of getting 12-1 might be diminishing here after that move, but very impressive, that's for sure.
Went 1 minute, 112, 126.6 on the gallop out. Chief Wallaby certainly will get some attention here midweek as we continue to roll forward. Albus, speaking of Mott, this is a different Mott though.
Riley Mott, he has a couple of runners this year. Incredibolt, his other one. Incredibolt, you called the victory in the Virginia Derby. Albus is a nice stretch run in the Wood Memorial. Has to probably improve from a speed figure standpoint, and seems to do his best running from off the pace. And we continually talk about the lack of pace on paper.
Incredibolt, his stablemate, I think gets a little bit of an outside look at a good price to maybe hit the board if things break the right way for him. But I think both of them are up against it pace-wise, and they both got to get a little bit faster. Not for nothing, Albus did run well in that Wood Memorial. It was a good effort, good run, but ultimately on the clock, might not quite stack up, but I don't know. Neither did some
and the
of
company
other
lines as well.
Yeah. Right to Party, who's going to be in the Derby as well. Actually will probably appreciate even the longer distance. That's a true grinder coming out of that race. But Riley Mott has handled this role as a Kentucky Derby trainer just so well. He's been great to watch and answers questions well. So rooting for them, of course. And we saw Wonder Dean moving his way around the chute, and now he's back out onto the main part of the racetrack. Wonder Dean, one of the 3 horses coming in from overseas for this Derby.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about him. Obviously, I was able to watch his recent victory in the UAE Derby. Somewhat of a grinding victory. Somewhat of a stalker, I guess. Maybe that role suits him well in this spot.
Well, I kind of had him as a little bit more mid-pack closer, but I did write / stalker. So I mean, maybe that just kind of means he's a little more adaptable and can kind of do what he wants. But I'm looking at my notes here, and I said no gate speed, and then I circled next to it an issue, because I think in a few of his races now, he has not gotten out of the gate particularly well, which is never what you want to see in the Kentucky Derby.
You were telling me last week that you have a lot of notes on the horses that they don't break that good in this.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's not a lot of quote good from gates type horses, which is interesting.
No KC Shadow.
No KC Shadow. If you haven't seen that movie, I got Tony onto it. You got to go watch it. Best racing movie ever. Chip Poncho not yet in the Derby. He's on the door. He's knocking on the door, I should say. He's got some speed. His race 2 back was solid. He obviously threw in a clunker last time. But this horse has some talent.
He's won over the racetrack. He graduated. Granted, it was a one-turn affair, and it was over a sealed, muddy racetrack. Connect out of an Irish mare. Yeah, he does have talent, and sometimes you just kind of have to forgive an effort or two. And in his case, one effort. The recent effort wasn't his best race, but his race before that was rock solid. That was in the Risen Star against Paladin, who I had really high in my rankings.
Paladin
many
was,
people did.
Yeah, he was favored by almost everybody for a while there.
Yeah.
And he tested him right to the wire, did Chip Poncho. So for what that's worth, but obviously his most recent start was just a little bit rough. We mentioned Albus, Right to Party was behind him. I actually really appreciated Kenny McPeak's interview the other day. He knows what he's dealing with. This horse has to get faster. But in a 10 furlong race with, we've talked about it not being a supersonic pace, but they still go quickly in a race like the Derby. And you just never know who can pick up some pieces from far back. Right to Party is a true grinding type horse, and I don't know, maybe he's on the way up and could sneak in if you're a super, high 5 player.
Wood Memorial, fast closing second. He's a long ways out of it. Like you said, he's probably going to relish the real estate. That was only his first time around 2 turns, and obviously history has shown that some long shots can win, and 2 come to mind. Deep closers, Mind That Bird and Rich Strike, and Right to Party will be that type of horse with those type of odds.
And you can think too, go back to Make Music for Me, who came on the scene late behind Super Saver. And Golden Soul, another type. When you're a super deep closer, things can happen in a race like the Kentucky Derby. Speaking of the Derby,
3-year-olds can improve speed figures quite drastically in such a short span.
Sure, for sure. We don't just have the Derby. We have the Kentucky Oaks as well. Lorelei Lee. This is a filly that you're familiar with. She worked this morning. This is just a little bit ago. We were focused on Chief Wallaby. Lorelei Lee made her way around the racetrack with Salty Senorita. She's going to end up working 48.2 to 101.4. Lorelei Lee.
Yeah, she looked good graduating at first asking in early January at Turfway Park, and then she ran into a couple of good ones, Cadenza and Hen Party. They both came back and ran very well in the Serena Song, our closing day featured event at Turfway. And then what an effort she put together, Lorelei Lee and the Bourbonnette Oaks. And although she has 3 races in her life, all on synthetic, she has bred top and bottom for dirt. She has Nyquist blood up top, Tappet blood on the bottom. The real estate shouldn't be a problem, and she'll be forward.
She'll be forward. I thought it was a clever ride in that Bourbonnette Oaks.
It was.
To go ahead and take control of that race early. There was a couple of good fillies on paper.
Resplendence was why she didn't go so aggressively, and Fernando took full advantage.
Yeah, and that was it. You could kind of tell going to the backstretch.
Yeah.
She had backed that thing down enough to kind of stick around. I think the worry for her is there does seem to be a couple of legitimate speed type pressers. There's no 24-48 in the Oaks.
She might not necessarily need the lead, though. She made the lead going 49 and change and 13 and 4. She was able to rate sprinting. Maybe it was just circumstantial that Fernando recognized the flow. And if she draws a good outside post and the speed's to her inside.
Yeah. It is a quick run to the first turn in the Oaks. Even though it's a furlong to the wire, the turn is right after the finish. So there's not a lot of time in a big 14-horse field to get that position.
Good point.
For the Kentucky Oaks. So the post will matter in terms of that pace. And some more Wonder Dean, who has really settled in with us here this morning, is potentially going to gate school, we're told, meaning they'll bring him to the gate and let him experience what it's like being in and around the starting gate. We have a special starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. All 20 horses will fit into one gate, as opposed to, what was it called, the auxiliary gate?
Yeah, the auxiliary gate.
It's always a hot topic when they came out of there, because he never wanted to be in that gap, because a lot of horses break toward open space, which created an interesting scenario for those out there.
Yeah, what was it, posts 14 and 15? Or
14 and 15.
Yeah, where they would kind of break outward and inward, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah. Ren Carruthers is on the back stretch, and she's got Junior Alvarado.
Out of the saddle, and right here beside me, Junior Alvarado. Won the Derby last year with Sovereignty, back with Bill Mott, with Chief Wallaby. You know this horse well. How did he feel out there working in the blinkers? He, to my eye, looked great, but you have the best seat in the house.
Yeah, we were looking something, he likes to look at horses sometime a little bit and get distracted up there. He was pretty straightforward today. His workout today was very beautiful, gallop out very strong, focus 100% in his work, and I'm very happy the way he did it today.
What are you seeing from him physically and mentally, maturation-wise?
Even if I compare it with the last time, I think he's maturing more now. He's a horse. He started his racing career a little bit late, but I think he's catching up at the right time.
The mile and the quarter.
It shouldn't be a problem.
All right, I know you need to get on another horse, so I'm going to ask you one more question. I would be remiss if I did not. Sovereignty. That was a great race first back in the Oakland Handicap. We saw speed from him. I think big things ahead. I know White Barrio prevailed, but Stephen Foster is coming up, right? As a goal.
Yeah, that's the goal, Stephen Foster. So, he came out of the race great. That race was a pretty good race. He's a horse he probably might have needed. He's a horse he doesn't really do much in the morning, more than he needed to. So, that race was it was a very good race. He ran a pretty good race. So, but, I think we're going to move forward from that.
All right, Junior, thank you so much. I know you've got more work to do, and we look forward to seeing more from you and Chief Wallaby. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Junior, for taking that time. He also has to catch a flight this morning.
Yeah, that's always a little nerve-wracking.
Sovereignty ran well. I mean, my phone is kind of blowing up a little bit. I think the world loved that Chief Wallaby workout.
I think there was no reason not to. It was very impressive, and you could see the blinkers going on. He was still wanting to throw the head about a little bit, just kind of wandering, but not as much. Not as much.
Yeah. Wonder Dean did, in fact, go to the starting gate. You can see there, just up to the top left of the frame, the Kentucky Derby starting gate, which is just a little bit different than our everyday gate. Why do they school him?
Well, I think they school them so they can obviously have familiar surroundings, familiarity, so that when they have to go into that gate, it's not like it's the very first time. And it's smart to do, even with grizzled veterans, experienced horses that have been away for a long time. Schooling is always good.
Yeah, especially in a race like the Derby with the crowd. If you've never been to the Derby, those 20 minutes leading up to it, the energy in this place is just off the charts, and you can just feel the tension from left to right. And as they line up and head to that gate, it hits another level.
It can really take a horse out of his game. Horses are what's the word? They're very kind of, the reflexes and just the way they tune into things, especially their ears. They really get a lot out of that, and it can kind of get a horse a little bit off his game. That's why you want a nice, well-composed 3-year-old to get there. But it's always good to do this sort of stuff, whether it's in the paddock, the starting gate. Can't hurt, that's for sure.
We talked about Chief Wallaby's price being 12-ish. I don't know, after that workout, I think he's going to drift down a little bit from there.
And rightfully so. I mean, we've talked about it, that was a good race, and people are holding it against him because he finished third, hesitant to push on through. But a young horse, that was only the second time him going 2 turns, and now with the blinkers on, that move over the surface, the connections. He's got the blood, he's got the looks. I like his look. I love his white blaze. It's pretty cool.
Chief Wallaby, I don't know, maybe he even dips down into single digits now. If you want to bet him, though, you can certainly do so at twinspires.com, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. You can do the Kentucky Derby bet back if your horse runs second or third. You can get back up to $10 in eligible races. Don't forget to take that promo. Opt in now, April 25th through Derby Day, only at twinspires.com. And of course, the $300,000 Kentucky Derby betting challenge. This tournament has just grown, and it's grown quickly. You certainly have a big opportunity to have the score of a lifetime in a tournament that's quickly ascended the ranks of tournaments that circuit of horse players wants to win.
Yeah, I would love to be able to participate in one of these. Maybe the Breeders' Cup betting challenge. Maybe me and you, we can combine our forces together.
Yeah, we can head right. We have those 2 days off here at Churchill.
Yeah, okay,
we
cool.
This year. So, as we look to wrap up this morning, I got to tell you, Chief Wallaby certainly turned some heads. He looked good, and onward from there.
Yeah, he will be the buzz this morning once we get off the set here. Everyone's going to be talking about Chief Wallaby, and rightfully so. He looks the part. He's coming into the race in magnificent fashion, and what a great first workout over the racetrack.
I felt like you could also you could feel the confidence from Junior too. He was subdued. It's early in the morning, and he's got a lot going on today. But I felt like he was excited about that.
He had a lot of confidence out of the Fountain of Youth. I mean, I think immediately after the race, he said, "They won't beat me next time."
Yeah.
They did, but hey, that's horse racing. They made a couple of adjustments. Now he's here at Churchill.
They didn't beat him by much, though. It was less than a length. I'm
know,
telling you,
I
he was
know.
coming on late. Caitlin, what'd you think?
I think workout aside, obviously, that was very impressive. I think Chief Wallaby's right there with the other top contenders in this race. He's a horse that just looks gorgeous on track. And another horse that kind of really struck me that wasn't working today but was out on the track was Albus. Just such a beautiful horse in the flesh. I had a chance to see him up close for the first time coming over onto the Lucas Gap. I really like what I saw from him physically. And Riley Mott's other contender, Incredibolt, is currently settling in over in the barn. He got here during our show, so he's now on the grounds. We're going to have a couple more arrivals, I think, today and a lot more in the coming days, I believe. So Happy is going to be here tomorrow, maybe. I'm looking to catch up with trainer Mark Glatt in the coming days. So going to be excited to get an interview with him, but a pretty busy morning here on the backside. Let's see what Ren Carruthers thought of the Chief Wallaby work as well as some of the other stuff we saw here. Ren?
Thank you, Caitlin. Well, I couldn't actually watch the work in its entirety. I had my view just from the backstretch itself, watching him go by. And I got to tell you, I'm echoing your thoughts. What a classy looking horse this is. The buzz is real, guys, I got to say. And I'll be looking forward to seeing what he does as he continues those preparations toward the Kentucky Derby. There's so much going on back here, such a buzz. It might be chilly, but things are certainly heating up. And as I keep saying, it's such an honor to be part of this show with you. Travis, Tony, back to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Ren. Ren looks a little bit warmer now, although it still looks a little crisp out there as we continue on this morning. And Tony, another day down as we press onward. Any changing thoughts, things that maybe shifted one way or the other for you?
You know, you get caught up in the moment when you see it immediately. And every horse so far has had pretty impressive workouts. Obviously, the most recent one, Chief Wallaby, jumping off the page. I might be moving him up just a little bit now.
For 24 hours, the Puma was the horse, and now Chief Wallaby will be the horse for another 24 hours until the next workout comes. We'll, of course, be back tomorrow, 6:45 in the morning. I'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to coming. You're with me tomorrow,
I
right?
am again.
Okay, get tight on, Tony. We're just getting started. And, of course, we're here all throughout this week and next week as we head into Oaks 152 and Derby 152. Thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.